Hare Krishna and welcome everyone to our weekly Bhagavad Gita class. Topic for today's discussion is how to see Krishna's hand in everything. and so we'll be discussing a few verses from 15th chapter and we'll be trying to understand how Krishna help us in uh, every step at every step, we how it is impossible for us to survive and thrive without Krishna. So that's going to be the topic for today's discussion. So we'll do a little recap. We are meeting, I think last time we spoke was around mid November, before Vrindavan Yatra. I believe it was 16th of November when we last spoke. And after that, a couple of sessions Kashyap Kapila Prabhuji has taken. And last Sunday, we had one wonderful session on chanting Japa. That was taken by His Grace Narottam Prabhuji. And I hope it was all inspirational. Everyone felt very inspired to perform bhakti with more sincerity, with more devotion, and more commitment, despite of all our challenges which our life is throwing at us. Despite of all that, we should be committed to perform bhakti, because that is we'll have today's discussion also will focus on that aspect. But uh, hope that last Sunday session was also useful. we we will do a quick recap of all the discussions that we have had over last few sessions. And so we concluded the Bhakti Yoga section of Bhagavad Gita, the 7th to 12th chapter, chapter 7 to chapter 12, speak about elaborately about Bhakti Yoga. It starts with the 7th chapter, which start with Maya Sakta Mana Partha, how to get your mind attached to me. Krishna starts with that and concludes the Bhakti section of Bhagavad Gita, which is like cream, the most nectarian section of Bhagavad Gita, with 12th chapter, which is pure devotional service. And the 13th chapter onwards, Krishna start addressing those type of people who are neither karmis nor they are hat yogis or dhyana yogis, and neither they are devotees. So the karmi, yogis and devotees, they were addressed in the first two sections of Bhagavad Gita, which starts from first chapter, ends on the 12th chapter. But the Gyanis were left out from the entire discussion. So Krishna did spoke about Jnana, Buddhi Yoga, but he never elaborated on that aspect, which he starts doing from 13th chapter onwards. So in the 13th chapter, the discussion changes gear, it shifts gear, and Arjuna asks questions to Krishna at the beginning of the chapter. And those questions are are quite difficult to comprehend, even to understand. What is Kshetra? What is Kshetra? Kshetrajna, who is Kshetrajna? The field of knowledge, who is the knower of the field. Then what is a jnana and what is a jnana gayam? Is the ultimate object to be achieved by that knowledge. So what are these things? Arjuna wants to ask. Arjuna asked by asking a question, and in reply to that, Krishna speaks chapter 13, which we discuss. The conclusion of that chapter 13 comes from the verse 26, where Krishna says that ultimately any knowledge that you try and acquire, he gives list of 20 subjects of knowledge, and mostly those are qualities that one must acquire, one must cultivate, or one must develop within oneself. So these qualities of knowledge, Krishna referred to them as knowledge. And Krishna says that it starts with amanitva or nirmana moha. It's amanitva, or lack of desire for having moha, for having, yeah, desire not to have respect not to get respect from everyone. So humility, submissive spirit, it starts with that. And Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport for there. And Prabhupada starts with this quality and ends with this same quality, saying that in bhakti, if you leave humility, bhakti will leave you. You cannot become a devotee and remain a devotee if you are not humble. So devotees are always humble throughout their life. This is one quality that you have to pick up and you have to cultivate, and we have to ensure that you always possess this one quality. Everything else will follow. If you are humble, you will learn. If you are humble, your chanting will be better. If you are humble, you will understand the subject matter of bhakti properly. If you are humble, you will be able to serve Krishna and his devotees properly. So humility is the starting and the last word for for becoming the qualification for practicing devotees. So, so Krishna then later on summarizes the understanding of chapter 13 is that all this knowledge should lead you to develop a desire for liberation or attaining Krishna ultimately. And how that can happen, Krishna says that that can happen by many ways. Many people try and do that in many ways. Karmis try and do it in a particular way. Yogis try and do it by dhyana yoga. But best is bhakti yoga. And by simply hearing this knowledge from pure devotees and practicing acting on that knowledge, you can attain perfection. You don't need to be perfect by yourself. So this is Krishna speaks in 26th verse of 13th chapter. Now while we operate in the world, we we are we are affected by different modes, and the modes of material nature is the title for chapter number 14, which comes after that. Now these modes are tamoguna, which is the lowest, rajoguna is the better than tamoguna, sattva guna is the best amongst the three gunas, and shuddha sattva is going beyond sattva, is the devotional mood. the when devotees are in the Shuddha Sattva mode, so they do everything for giving pleasure to Krishna. They do nothing for themselves. They do everything for Krishna. All their actions, all their thoughts are for serving Krishna and making Krishna happy. So their sole parameter, sole uh, objective in life while acting is how can I please Krishna? How can I make Krishna happier? And Krishna means Krishna's expansion. So devotees are expansions of Krishna. So they live, their whole life is dedicated towards pleasure of Krishna and his devotees. And they do nothing for themselves. Now, this may sound very impractical, but this is what the whole Krishna consciousness process is all about. That right from morning you chant rounds, you cook nice bhoga, offer it to Krishna. You in the evening come back, read Bhagavatam, read Bhagavad Gita, perform some arti, perform some kirtan at home, honor prasad, and go to sleep. Now this is a simple life. In between, you may have to work. Or you may have to go to office. You may have to work for maintaining your family and taking care of their family needs. But all that is sandwiched by strong processes of morning and evening program, and in between prasadam program, and therefore one never forgets Krishna. One is able to serve and remember Krishna all the time throughout the day. And this is a beautiful process Prabhupada has given, which can be practiced by anybody, whoever is in grahastha ashram. They could be a student, they could be a house, somebody can be a housewife, somebody can be a student, somebody can be working professional, and somebody can be a businessman. Everybody can do this. No question of anybody not being able to do it. We have ample examples of the who's who uh, of this world practicing Krishna consciousness very successfully and relishing it as well. It's not just practicing for the sake of it, but relishing it. It's all about bhajatam priti purvakam. And when they do this, remembrance of Krishna is very easy for them. And for such actions, there is no bondage. So there they these devotees are not worried about, while acting in the world, one is always worried if I'm doing good karma or bad karma, whether this will have good result, bad result, whether will I suffer, will I enjoy. But devotees always enjoy, because whatever actions they perform does not yield any reactions. Plus, chanting and the devotional bhakti which they perform help them eradicate all their historical reactions which are accumulated but yet not yet fructified. So their definition of success is how much they are dependent on Krishna, how much they are attached to Krishna, how much they can sacrifice for Krishna, how much they are able to glorify Krishna, how much they are able to work for Krishna tirelessly without wasting time, how much they are able to glorify devotees, how much humble more they become in the process. So this is their measure of success, and that is transcendental. They enjoy their other devotees success, and they glorify their other devotees, and they don't expect any glorification for themselves. Now this is exactly opposite to what we find in the rest of the world. Rest of the world, everybody wants themselves to be glorified, and they are prepared to they're prepared to बाकी लोगों को नीचा दिखाने के लिए भी लोग तैयार होते हैं. For ensuring that they are themselves glorified, they can show other people down. So people pull other people down so that they can climb up, and that's very common. So the world of devotion is the most beautiful world. It's like a Vaikuntha on this material, in this material world. And knowledge of modes of material nature help us reveal this aspect. Then we started discussing about the 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 upside down banyan tree, the 15th chapter. The first 10 verses we've discussed, we will run through those quickly, and then we will jump into today's discussion. The 15th chapter starts with Krishna speaking about upside down banyan tree. It's a metaphor, it's an example Krishna gives to explain the point. Point is, he's saying urdhva moolam adha shakham ashwatham prahura avyayam chandansya parnani yastam veda sa vedavid. That you should, material world is like this upside down banyan tree, which is a reflection of the original tree. It's not original tree, but to know this tree completely properly is not enough. Knowing this tree includes not only knowing the Vedas, but also knowing how to cut down the attachment to this tree, how to get out of this bondage, how to get out of this material world. If unless one know this aspect, one's knowledge is considered to be incomplete. So, what should one know? Or not only the know how to operate in this world, but also one should know how to get out of this world. It's like once you get into a college, say you get admitted to IIM Calcutta or IIM Ahmedabad for a 2-year degree course, 3-year degree course, one should know where the canteen is. One should know where where the sports room is. One should know where the classroom is, and one should be able to function within the premises. However, once that is not one's goal. One's goal is to study and get out of this college. Ultimately, nobody gets admission to college to stay there permanently. One wants to get out of that college after getting qualified. So one should prepare oneself for acquiring the qualification to get out of that college. Similarly, in this world, we should be preparing ourselves to acquire qualification to get out of this world. Get out of this world, to kahan jayenge? So that Krishna later on elaborate. So the upside down reflection, from reflection, we can't get anything. We get something what we don't want. What we want and what we get in the material world. We want order in the material, in our life. We all our plans is to create order in our life. However, life provide us with chaos. We want peace of mind. Our mind is in always pieces. We want eternal happiness. We get flickering happiness. We want love. We get hate. We want everything to be permanent. We have everything which is temporary. Everything is taken away from us. We want trust. We get betrayal. We want health. We get diseases. We want prosperity, but we have poverty. We want ever youthfulness, but we get old age. We grow old every day, and eventually we catch up with old age. We want eternal life, but we have death. In nutshell, we are searching for eternity, knowledge and bliss, or Satchit Ananda. So these are the basic fundamental characteristics of soul. A soul is always Sat, soul is Chit, and soul is wants to be happy always. However, what we get in this world are the opposite. We want eternity, we get temporary. Everything is temporary. We get knowledge, we are searching for knowledge, but what we get is agyan, or lack of spiritual knowledge, which can help us get out of this world and go to the permanent place where we belong to. We want bliss or ananda, but we get hankering and lamentation. So why we are suffering in this material world? Because we are looking at reflection, we are getting attached to the reflection, and we are hoping that this reflection will provide us with eternal happiness. And when we look at reflection, we obviously are not able to look at the original object. The original object is Krishna, from whom everything else has been expanded. So now, since our eyes are today focused on reflection, we are missing out on looking at seeing the original object. Now Krishna, through Bhagavad Gita, is directing our attention to fix our eyes on Krishna himself. Now Krishna is, we don't have to go to Krishna to ask for any of those things that were listed in the previous slide, that we want eternity, we want knowledge, and we want bliss, we want peace of mind. We don't have to go to Krishna. Because once we go to Krishna, once we get Krishna, all these things becomes manifested automatically. You don't have to ask for it. That's the beauty of Krishna. So Krishna is directing our eyes to look towards him, and with this knowledge only we can become happy in this world, and we can also acquire qualification to go out of this world. Second verse, adhascha urdhvam prasuta tasya shakha guna pravruddha vishaya pravalaha adhascha moolan anusantatani karmanu bandhini manushaloke. Karmanu bandhini manushaloke. This manushaloka, which is this bhuloka, and all of us who have taken birth in human species of life, we are karmanu bandhini. We are bound by our karma. What it means is, the other species of life can also have linkage to the karma. The animals are suffering because of their bad karma, but while they are in animal species of life, they are not incurring fresh karma. They, all their energies, all their lifetimes goes in burning their past karma and eventually evolution, going through the process of evolution to come up to a stage where they can acquire human body. And 80 lakh species are non-human species, and 4 lakh species are human species, which means these 80 lakh species are evolving and eventually will become humans. And the humans are expected to get out of this world, acquire knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and get out get out of this world, and then create space for these animals to progress. So this banyan tree, Krishna is saying that is not easy to understand. It is fed by the modes of material nature. The desire is the seed, and the modes are like pouring water. Then dharshcho udva, the branches are going upside as well as downwards, and the roots are also going upwards as well as downwards, which means this tree is extremely complicated. Krishna is saying indirectly that don't try to figure out things, just try to get out of this thing. Don't try to figure out, just get out. Don't try to figure out too much of this tree, of this material world, because it is extremely complex. The subsequent verses also reiterate this point, that the na rupa masyeha tathopa labhyate na anto na cha adir na cha sampratishtha. There is no anta, there is no beginning, there is no end of this tree. So which you will never be able to figure out ki what exactly this tree is and how I can become eternally happy in this material world. That aspect you will never be able to figure out. So then what one should do? Ashwatha menam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dhrudena chitva. What you should do is asanga shastrena, by the weapon of detachment, cut down this tree, and eventually go out of this material world, attain liberation, attain Krishna. Then when you are hoping to get liberation, what will happen to you? Tatah padam tat parimargatavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha. That you will go to a place from where you don't have to come back. Yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuyaha. Na nivartanti is you will not want to come back. You will not have to come back. You may actually reach a place, asanga shastrena dridena chitva karne ke baad, you will reach a place of in the spiritual world from where you do not have to come back. Na nivartanti means coming back, and na nivartanti means you will not come back. Then after having reached to such a place in the spiritual world, is job over? Krishna says no, you still have something to figure out. What you have to do there? Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. You have to go and surrender to such a purusha, that purusha you have to find out, and you have to prapadye, you have to surrender to that purusha. After having attained the spiritual world also, your job is not over. You have to surrender to a uttama purusha. Now this purusha, ye kaun hai? Krishna does make a inform about this Purusha, making a third party reference. It doesn't say, I am that Purusha who will be you will find in the spiritual world. So go and surrender to me, because Gyanis today are not prepared to surrender to Krishna. So Krishna is using a third reference to that Purusha. Tvameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatah pravrutti prasuta purani. This pravrutti is this whole creation. This whole creation has been prasuta, has been delivered by that Purana Purusha. So this Purusha was there when nothing was there. This whole creation didn't existed, but that Purusha was existing. So that Purusha is that Purana, is that very, very old. Now this old Purusha, uh, what he has done, he has created this whole Prakriti, this whole universe, this whole creation has been animated from him. So he's given birth to this entire creation. This material world is given birth by him, and he existed when this material world was also not existent at that time. Such a Purana Purusha who has given birth to this material world in which we are all operating, that Purana Purusha you have to find out and go and surrender to him. So if one chooses not to surrender to Krishna while they are operating in this world, they will be forced to do that when they go to spiritual world. And then after attaining spiritual world, one will be extremely proud of his achievement, that where the weapon of detachment, if one is able to attain spiritual world, then there is no, then where is the need for Krishna? One may feel that way, and then one will not be very humble anymore in once we are able to attain that kind of achievement. But Krishna says, after having done that, after having attained uh, such a wonderful achievement, you have to still go and surrender. Now, to be able to surrender, one has to have amanitva, one has to have humility, one has to have submissive spirit within him to be able to surrender to that Purusha. And Krishna says, this facility is available in the material world right now, right here. So why make your task difficult? So Krishna says this: Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvaindar vimukta sukha dukha sangye gachanta mudha padam avyayam tat. That what is the qualification for doing this is lack of false prestige, nirmana moha, and who has win over all his modes of material nature and desires for sense gratification, and he is able to maintain equal mood, equal he's equipoised in happiness and distress, and such a person can only attain that eternal kingdom. Now one may wonder what that kingdom looks like. So Krishna gives more elaborate information about that kingdom in the sixth verse. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Now here he's claiming that place to be his own. He said a mama is used many times by Krishna, that maya dhyakshena prakriti, that my supervision the whole material nature functions. Then Mama Maya Dhuratvaya, Daiviya Isha Gunamai, Mama Maya Dhuratvaya. Krishna says, my Maya, which is very difficult for anyone to overcome. The why? Because she's Daivi and she's mine. So anything that is connected with Krishna is divine. And that's not so easy for anybody to overcome. You cannot overcome anything that is Krishna's, you cannot overcome that without Krishna's mercy. That's exactly what Krishna says later in this verse. That, but Mayam, Mama Evam, but if you can prapadyante to me, if you, then Maya metam tarantite, then you will be able to swim over the Maya, the ocean. Maya is also referred to as Bhavasagar. Sagar is like ocean. That ocean, it's not easy to swim across an ocean. So Krishna says, if you surrender to me, then you will be able to cross over this ocean of material existence. And so here also Krishna is not only asking us to go to the dham or go to the place to when we have to go out of one place, we should know which other place we are going to acquire and where we are going to end up. When we set up for train, sit in a train from which is going from say Mumbai to Mathura, we should have a fair idea where we are going, and we should know what we will be doing there, and we should have attraction towards that place, that Mathura Vrindavan Dham, where we want to go, for which we want to sit in the train. We should have good idea about what we are going to do there, and that should be attractive to our mind. Otherwise we will have no motivation to go and sit in the train, the Nijamuddin August Kranti Express, which leaves Bombay Central at 5:10 p.m. every day. What motivation will be there for us? No. Then we will say rather we are happy in Mumbai. But when we hear that Vrindavan Dham, which is it's a self-illuminous Dham, and it's a Param Dham, it's a wonderful Dham. And we hear all about glories of that Dham, and one such glories Krishna explains, a few such glories Krishna explains in this verse. Now that bhasayate suryo, there is no need of sun, moon, and Agni for the purpose of illumination. It's not that sun, moon, and fire are not there in the spiritual world, but they are not required for the purpose of illumination. So today, in our world, material world is called deep dark material world. Why? Because it cannot be illuminated without sun. If sun does not rise someday, then our world will be in perpetual darkness. There is no other way which we can with which we can illuminate this world. We may use electricity, but electricity is nothing but converted modified sunlight. So if sun stops rising, it's not that we will have electricity perpetually. All the sources of electricity generations originally comes from sun. So what we are doing is we are just converting sun's energy into electricity, and we are using it when sun is not around. But essentially sun is required for us to have the illumination. The heat and light comes from sun. So without sun, we can be in perpetual darkness. Shashanka is Chandrama, and Pavakaha, the Agni, and Prabhat also add electricity, because any Mumbaikar or anybody who is living in Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Bangalore wants to understand the sources of light, is first eye goes to the tube light or the bulb in the room. So Prabhupada, and that does not work on electricity. That works on electricity. It does not work on sunlight. So while sun and moon are external, but inside our home we have electricity which is giving us illumination. And so Prabhupada adds electricity also to just to make a point that this sources of knowledge, these sources of light are not required in the spiritual world. Spiritual world is self-illuminous. Everything in spiritual world is divine. Everything in spiritual world has life, and everything is self-illuminous. There's no need for um, there is no need for external light sources as it is needed in the current world. Further, Krishna says that this world, and why everybody is not ready and willing to go to that world if it is so fabulous, it is so wonderful. Then Krishna says that there's a problem that even though all the jiva bhutas are my part and parcel, mamaiv ansho jiva loke jiva bhutaha sanatanaha, what are they doing? They are skarshati, they are struggling very hard in the material world with six indriyas, including mind. Now, mind is grouped with indriya. We all understand panchendriya, but here Krishna is always grouping mind also along with the indriyas. Krishna says that with these indriyas, the six indriyas, which includes mind, everyone is busy karshati in doing what? Struggling very hard for existence and survival. Why they are doing this? Because they have forgotten that they are my part and parcel, and they have eternal existence. Having forgotten the first line, we are trying to create eternal world in the material world. Prakriti sthani, where everything is temporary, our existence is temporary, and our the the happiness available with us is also temporary. The indriya using with which we are trying to extract happiness from this world, they are also temporary. The indriya which hope to give us happiness today will become the sources of misery tomorrow. So we are karshati, we are struggling extremely hard for our existence. We are struggling with hunger, we are struggling hard to earn two ends meet, sufficient to make two ends meet, to earn two meals a day. Even though everything is there, our hearts are broken. We have huge relationship issues, huge mental health issues, and the old age is a problem today. It's a big problem. People don't know, uh, when they become old, they think their utility is over, and they are good for nothing. They cannot contribute to the world, and they are practically not needed by the world. They're just hoping to die one day quickly, and they start praying that day comes faster than otherwise. And they just lose purpose. Why? Because the predominant driver of this world is sense gratification, is deriving happiness from sense gratification, to enjoy. The enjoyment mentality, which is driving all our actions, is the problem. The desire to enjoy is the problem. That is the seed. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Krishna says that this eternity, this mameva ansho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanam. Now they are sanatana. That's true. That they, in their original form and shape, which is their spiritual spark, which is their spirit soul, they are sanatana. But whatever the bodies they are acquiring, they are not sanatana. These bodies are temporary, and these bodies need to be given up at a particular point of time, and they are given new bodies. That's true. But this change of body happens, and that is extremely painful. That is extremely bewildering to everyone. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th verse of second chapter, that where Krishna says, "Dhiras tatra na muhyati." The dhira, if you are become a dhira, O Arjuna, and don't get bewildered by this change. Which change? the Dehino smin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantar praptis. This dehantara is shifting movement from one body to another body. Now this dehantara praptir, when you get this dehantar, when you witness this dehantar, dhiras tatra na mujyate. You become a dhira and don't get bewildered by this. And Krishna elaborate on the same point here. Krishna says that how does this happen? Now one may wonder this soul moving from one body to another body, how does it exactly happen? So Krishna elaborate on that theme, that saying that shariram yadavapnoti yacha yacha api utkramatishwaraha gruhitvaitani sayyanti vayur gandhani vashayat. Just like air picks up aroma from flowers and takes it from one place to another, similarly a, a soul shift, she goes, leaves one body and acquires another body. And how does it do? It does, and while doing this, what does it do? It acquires the Shotram Chakshu Sparshanam cha Rasanam Ghranam Evacha Adhisthaya Manashchayam Vishayan Upasevate. It acquires its senses, the certain types of uh, gross body senses, type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, sense of touch, which are grouped about along with the mind. So the soul leaves one body and goes to another body, but carries with itself the mind, intelligence, and its false ego. And these three components, using which it acquires fresh senses and start his leftover activity again. So the five senses are grouped about around the mind. So the mind is like the palm, and the five senses are like five fingers, and they are all feeding our mind that see this, enjoy this, smell this, enjoy this, touch this, enjoy this, hear this, enjoy this, taste this, enjoy this. And our mind constantly is receiving signals from these five senses, and then it chooses to focus on that which gives the most attractive deal. For its most attractive, where you can fantasize at more enjoyment, it focuses upon that aspect and then try to act in order to get that enjoyment. Process of transmigration uh, visible, can be understood and visible to somebody who has jnana chakshu. Utkramat Utkramanta sitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudha na anupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Foolish people cannot understand how this is happening. Now how a living entity can quit his body and acquires a new body? A foolish person cannot understand this, but the one who's trained in the knowledge can see all this happening. And a devotee is trained in the knowledge, because Bhagavad Gita gives this knowledge elaborately, right from second chapter, right from second chapter's 12th verse and onwards. Constantly Krishna is giving this knowledge, is reiterating this knowledge. So Bhagavad Gita is one source of knowledge which elaborately explains the whole process of transmigration, whole process of the existence and soul and the reincarnation. Nowhere else this knowledge is available. The eyes of knowledge, we see not only with our eyes, but we see with our knowledge also. On the left hand side is a graph, it's a stock market graph. And one does not know, one has no understanding of stock market, will think that some child must have drawn, must is probably trying to learn how to draw lines, and all he has done is probably draw some line which are wavered. One may come to that kind of a conclusion. But if a stock market expert, if a investment expert see this graph, and he has some with knowledge, with the eyes of knowledge, he will see some trend, he will see something that can give more deeper meaning to him, that something is happening here in this graph. Similarly, graph on the left hand side, the image on the right hand side, a doctor may read this image a lot inside this image. However, a layman may think that it's a wrong photo. It's wrongly printed. It's a The old times we used to have negative, positive, and negatives used to look like this. So, and then when you print it on a paper, Kodak paper, it used to print like a proper. It used to be a proper printout. So one will not make sense of it. But a doctor who is expert, who is trained, can see, get some deeper meaning out of this kind of a X-ray. So moving on, we will discuss five more verses today, and we will take this discussion further. Yatanto yoginaschaiva pashyantya atmani avasthitam yatanto yatanto api akrutatmano nayanam pashyanti achetasaha. Now, Krishna has spoken in the previous verse that that if you're Jnana Chakshu, if you have Jnana Chakshu, then only you will be able to see. What you will be able to see, that there is a soul which is moving from one body to another. There's a transmigration happening of a soul. A soul is not constant with one body. Soul does not die when a body dies. And na hanyate hanyamani sharire. So that's the basic quality of the soul, that when the body is destroyed, that soul does not get destroyed. In fact, it moves, it gives up this old useless body and acquires a new body. And along with the desires, along with the fresh set of senses that it gets, it continues its journey of fulfilling its own desires. So yatanto yoginas chaiva, yogis are trying. Yoginas chaiva and pashyantya, they can see. Pashyantya atmanya avasthitam. If they are, if yogis who's transcendentalists, who are situated in self-realization, can see all this very clearly. But those yatanto aprakrutatmano, yatat, but those people who are trying, the other set of, so the both type of people are trying. Yogis are trying and they are able to see. Why they are able to see? Because they are situated atmanya avasthitam. They are situated at the they have understanding of soul, and they can see, they have realization of the soul existence, and they are able to see. They have trained, they have learned first 12 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and they have understood elaborately, where repeatedly Krishna has spoken about the existence of soul and its migration, movement from one body to another in different world. Verses. So that yogi is able to understand how exactly this is happening. However, the other people who are trying to see, who are trying to see the same phenomena, but who are not developed and who are not situated in the self-realization, they cannot see what is happening. Even though they may try, they may also try. So both sets of people are trying, both type of people are trying. But one who has developed, who is a self-realized person, he is able to see. One who is trying but who is not self-realized, he is not able to see. A blind person may try extremely hard to look at a beautiful painting. However, because because of his deficiency of the knowledge and of the indriya that is deficient, he is unable to see, no matter how hard he try. It's not that he's lazy, that's why he's not able to see. It's not that he's closed his eyes, therefore he's not able to see. But he need to develop eyes, and he may have to go through a process of surgery where he can get fresh sets of eyes, and then he can see the same object. But when he is blind, and he has not undergone the process of a treatment, at that time, no matter how hard he may try to look at a beautiful painting, he will not be successful. So this is the situation. This is our situation. Prabhupada says in the purport that there are many transcendentalists on the path of spiritual self-realization, but one who is not situated in the self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. At present day, Prabhupada compares it with yoga teachers. In 1965, in 70s, yoga was big in America. Even today, you will find yoga shalas or yoga classes being conducted in many. There will be many boards. Even if you roam around in America, at many places you will find many prominent places will have yoga classes, and all the who's who. The bigwies, they like to go to yoga and they try to sit in the Padmasan and try and meditate. This is very big hit in America, the yoga. And Professor Prabhupada writes with reference to that, and we can see it in today also that yoga per se is prominent even in India. The yoga day, this, that, and so in general people understand what yoga is, and people has certain understanding of what yoga is, and then there many of them are actually so-called practicing yoga as well. So Prabhupada writes about all of them that the present day there are many so-called yogis and there are so many so-called associations of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization, and that's true. None of those yoga teachers will teach you about soul, they will talk about the concept of soul. For to speak of, uh, if you don't know what soul is, what you will understand transmigration or movement from one body to another or reincarnation, how will you understand it? So all these are foreign concept for those yoga teachers. So what do they then focus on? They are simply dedicated to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if body is well built and healthy, which is not unimportant, which is critical, but that's not all important. Yoga has so much more to offer. They have no other information, unfortunately. Therefore, they cannot teach you proper things. So they, even though what how their efforts can be described, their efforts can be described as api apkritatmanaham, that they are trying, but they are trying without guidance. They are, all their efforts are unproductive in nature because they don't have fundamental information. So no matter how hard they will try, they, all their efforts are guaranteed failure because they don't have basic ingredient, that the knowledge of soul. So even though they are endeavoring in so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of transmigration of the soul, and such those who don't understand obviously cannot teach others. So their, all their so-called effort are becomes a waste. Only those who are actually in the yoga system have realized the self, the world, and the supreme lord, about the self, the world, and the supreme lord. So all the Jeev, Jagat, Jagadish, we would have realized that Jeev, Jagat, and Jagadish. So the one should have knowledge of all the three and the relationship between the three. What is the relationship between all the three? In other words, the bhakti yogis who have this knowledge, those who engage in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. Let's break and discuss about why it is important to know about the concept of soul and its reincarnation from war movement from one body to another. What will happen if this knowledge is not there? The other question can be that why it is important to know, have this knowledge, and what happens when we don't have this knowledge? What happens on the, in general, to the people who don't have this knowledge? How they lead their life? What is the conception with which they live life, and what is the problem with that? So why it is important to know the concept of soul and its transmigration? Please raise hand and we can spend some time discussing this. Ravi Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir. Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. It's audible now?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can hear you.
Yeah. I feel the thing is that actually, without this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, if the people don't know about the soul, they are lot of confusion will be there, and they can't achieve their desired target of going to Gola Vrindavan, I think. And
Okay.
they may fall, they may fall down in between. So ultimately, this knowledge is most important to know about the soul and
Yeah. If they don't have knowledge of soul, then what will they have? They will have
they will again rebirth, rebirth, and rebirth, and there is
rebirth.
no, yes, there is no
Yeah. No hope for them to get out.
get out of this chakra of rebirth.
Okay. Okay. Vikas Oji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Oji. Vikas Oji and then Sudhi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
So basically, as it was a discussion also with Srila Prabhupada that why should we get to know this, that why we should get to know the spiritual knowledge, and why not to hanker in the spirit, because who has seen the next birth. So ultimately, if we are not knowing about the soul, then we will be hankering around our material desire satisfaction, or rather the sensory gratification, in a more and more glorified way, to the extent we can do it. And the time when miseries come in our life, that time we won't be able to find that why these miseries are coming and why I am suffering because of everything, because of the old age and disease. So when the picture of soul comes in play, then we always know that this is shashvatam, this is not going to die. And and ultimately what I need to do is I need to carry out the duties of which is required for my soul, that is to become the eternal servitor of Krishna. And till the time the knowledge itself is not there that I am not a body, I am the soul, I will keep feeding my senses, and I'll not be running towards the actual purpose of life. And that is why it is of at most importance that I will be in the cycle of gratifying my senses, which is impossible to gratify. Means those senses will never be satisfied, even how much kind of whatever kind of nutrition I can give to them, but they will keep asking for more and more. But in case of if we are aware about the soul, then we won't be hankering for that, and rather we will be going for what is my spiritual benefit, and what should I do for giving nutrition to my soul. And that is why this is of utmost importance, that most of the lifetime of at least human form of life can be engaged for the one, if he is knowing about the soul and its transmigration, that how best I can do so that I can inch closer to my goal of becoming eternal servitor to Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Sudhi Prabhu ji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandat Pranam Prabhu.
Prabhu, what I have understood is that it is very important to know the characteristics of soul and to know personally the soul, what is soul, because then only we get the knowledge that the soul gets pleased in pleasing Krishna. The soul is only happy when he gets the opportunity and gets the chance of pleasing Krishna. Otherwise, without knowing this, we keep on doing something which we think that we are very happy about, which ultimately is not. The world is not a happy place. It is, as Prabhupada and in Gita it is said that dukhalayam ashwasratam. So that is why it is a dukhalay. When we know, we have the knowledge about soul, we come to know that yes, the only activity in this life for a human being is to go for liberation. And the path for liberation is to make Krishna happy. So if Krishna is happy, only then we get the path for liberation. Otherwise, we are living a very dangerous life. So that is why it is very important to know the soul and the characteristics of soul. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Oji. We have Swapnil Prabhuji and then Puru Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I believe, as per my understanding, soul gives the true identity, because it is nothing as what we understand, that soul is part and parcel of the Krishna, which has come to this materialistic world, and we have been given a false identity. The body is the false identity, which is nothing but group of senses together packed, and the soul is the one which has the true identity. So to understand that body and soul is separate and we identify ourselves to the soul, it also means that we will ultimately achieve the aim what Krishna wants a soul to do in this materialistic world. So that is very important, that we should understand that we are not just a body, but we are a soul. That is my understanding. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Puru Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, regarding that, my understanding is that if suppose I come to know that there is a transmigration of soul, and also there is a life after death. So, if means by doing my karmas, if I have the consciousness that there is a life after death, it means somebody is checking my karmas, somebody is seeing me, somebody having means whole inventory of the my karmas. So in this way, I will feel responsible for me of my every karma. So in this way, there is a chances if I am doing something wrong, I will think it may be possible ki if I am doing wrong, so I may be mispenalized. So in this way, slowly, gradually, I will see myself as a means what I am doing actually, and for means what I am doing. So in this way, I can improve my consciousness, and I can means lead to a very means good karmas, or maybe means akarmas. Yes.
Yeah, I like the word inventory. This is where accountants have distinct advantage in bhakti. No,
Yes.
they understand this inventory, debit, credit.
Right.
Yes, Prabhuji. But nicely put the point that if one knows that you are a soul and you are going to take birth again, once you get convinced of this aspect, then obviously the thought changes to what should I do to get at least better birth, if not worse.
Yes.
That's how the consciousness will get evolved eventually to do things which will not help me degrade, at least
Yes.
if not degrade, at least stay at the same level, or if possible, see improve what I can improve. Thank you so much, Roji. That's very helpful. I'll see if you have anybody else wants to raise hand, or anybody else wants to contribute anything, or should we move?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare here.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Prabhuji.
Just I wanted to understand the banyan tree example that you had given. Now, exactly, I understood a little bit of it, that as we ignorant of the spiritual world, we are seeing the things upside down. Is it what we are trying to give an example for, or like we are trying to see the reflection and we are missing the actual picture? Is it what we are saying?
Yes, Prabhuji, that's what. So Krishna gives this example. This is example used by Krishna, that Urdhva Mula Madhashakam Ashwatham Prahura Avyayam. Ashwatha is banyan tree. So this comes in the verse, and Krishna used this as a metaphor. So Krishna saying that what you are currently busy looking at and hoping to get extract happiness is a reflection. Is a reflection means there is something original object also exists. When there is a reflection, you should understand that original objects also exist somewhere else, and as long as we keep looking at the reflection, our eyes are not going to see the original object. So Krishna is saying you are right now focused on that reflection, which is a very, very complicated part of the material existence, where you don't know why you're suffering. And everything is very complicated, and it describes that how the branches are going downwards and upwards, how the roots are also going upwards and downwards, and they are spreading everywhere. They are going up, branches going up and down, which we are going from one species to another species. We are also evolving. We had annual body earlier, now we have human body. Within human bodies also we have 4 lakh varieties of human bodies. So this whole tree, or the whole tree, which is which is a substratum of a material existence or material world, for which Krishna is using this metaphor, describing the material world. Krishna is using this metaphor is extremely complicated, but it can be, and knowing this tree is not sufficient unless one know how to cut down the attachment to this tree and how to get out of this tree. And that's why the Krishna says that Vedas are its leaves. But knowing Vedas does not means knowing the entire material world. Knowing Vedas, if you want to become a Vedavit, then you should know how to cut down the attachment to this material tree. And just by knowing hymns of Vedas is not sufficient. You should know how to cut down the attachment to this tree also, which means you should know how to get out of this material world. And if you, by knowing Vedas, by speaking Vedic hymns, if you don't understand that aspect, then your Vedas, knowledge of Vedas is incomplete. So this is where Krishna is section, where Krishna is saying that attain liberation by detachment is from this material world, or attain liberation. But Krishna says that if you can't liberate, if you are not able to liberate using the weapon of detachment, asanga shastrena, then what happens to you is you get caught up in the material world and you move from one body to another. And that process is explained in some of the previous verses, where we spoke about transmigration, that how you acquire fresh set of senses and goes to a new body. And what are you trying to do? You are trying to karshati, you are trying to extract some happiness, drops of happiness, after struggling very hard in the material world, birth after birth, birth after birth. So this is where Krishna is saying that this is how the example play out of the reflection. And now Krishna is going to speak about if you should try and get out of this material world. And now the third section Krishna is going to speak, which we will discuss now, will speak about na anupashyanti. Those who do not have eyes of knowledge, what happens to them? Is spiritual path completely blocked for them? No. So that we are going to discuss in subsequent verses.
Okay,
Okay.
the point that I was trying to understand further is the detachment is one of the ways to sort of get into a spiritual world and try to come out of this cycle of death and birth. That's what we are saying. But at the same time, we are also saying that even though we may follow the Krishna consciousness path, but still we have to feed to our family and we have to earn something for living and meeting our basic needs and all. So we continue to get involved into the material world at the same time, and at the simultaneously we have to create a sort of uh, way of looking for making Krishna happy by doing sadhana, by doing bhoga, and by interacting with the devotees and other things. Is it right, my understanding, sir?
So the section has changed from bhakti to jnana section. So
Okay,
this chapter 13 to 18 will have evolution of a jnani who is discussing and contemplating and analyzing things, components of material nature and world around him that he see, to make sense out of it and to arrive for him. Now this progression of a jnani to devotee is not a sudden. Now what we've discussed till the chapter 12th is 7 to 12, that section which we discussed was pure devotional service, where what you said is right, that without giving up the world, how? Because this is at the beginning of third chapter, Krishna was asked this question by Arjuna, that and should I become a renunciate? Should I go to forest
right.
and stop all the activities? Now Krishna does not allow him to do that. He says, if you go to forest, but if your mind is not on your control, you will still be living with you will be six wives in the
Right.
forest, even though you may think you are living in the forest, but your five senses and mind, which has those conceptions, which has those desires for enjoyment with your senses, if you retain those, and then externally you may still wear saffron dress and go to forest, you will still be living with six wives. So that is foolish. He said, rather than doing that, unless you are fully purified, unless you are fully elevated in the consciousness, don't even attempt that. Then what better option you are having? You stay where you are, wherever, whichever grahastha ashram, whichever varnashram you are in, you stay where you are and perform devotional service. Bring Krishna into your life. And that's what we saw, that the progression of a karmi who's initially asked to do his work. Krishna says, don't even try to do somebody else's work better. You do your work. If you are, whatever the varnashram has given you work, you do that work properly, and then try for bhakti, becoming a devotee, because then you are able to integrate the two very easily. If
Okay.
you try, if a kshatriya try to act like a brahmana, or a brahmana try to act like a kshatriya, you are creating conflict, because you are a brahmana because of certain gunas that you are having, certain natural tendencies that you are having. A kshatriya becomes kshatriya because of those natural gunas. Mode of passion will be very dominating for a kshatriya, so he will want to fight a war, raise voice. So those are very natural to him. For him to act like a brahmana externally is very difficult. So Krishna does not recommend this change of
Yeah.
varnas or change of ashramas, sudden change of varnas and sudden change of ashramas, because eventually when you are purified, you can actually become, you can actually move from one ashram to another. But it takes time. When you do it suddenly, when you are not fully purified, when you are not fully well situated in, when your mind is not fully under your control, you can actually cause chaos to the society, to for yourself, for your own spiritual path, but as well as in the society. And that is not recommended. That's why Krishna says that does not recommend this sudden change. He said rather you stay where you are and integrate bhakti into your life. And then he gives his own example, and that's how the discussion evolves and brings to the seventh chapter, from where onwards he says, whichever ashram you are in, whichever varna you could be belonging to, you can perform bhakti and elevate your consciousness and become and perfect your life in one lifetime itself.
Okay. Okay.
That's the flow.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. So there's a beautiful verse in Bhagavatam in this connection, that Shrama eva hi kevalam. This is famous verse, that dharmasva dharmasa swanisthitaha punsa vishvaksena kathasu yah नोत्पाद नोत्पाद येद यदि रति श्रम एव हि केवलम न न उत्पाद येद यति रति न उत्पाद येद यदि रतिम श्रम एव हि केवलम. If it cannot produce rati in the hearing and chanting or in performing bhakti, so whatever dharma swanishtitaha punsa, whatever activities man perform according to his own position, if they are unable to produce, they are unable to give rise to rati towards hearing and chanting or performing devotional activities, then it is said that shrama eva hi kevalam, then that all that he has done is um, is a is a wastage, is becomes a waste of labor, useless labor, Prabhupada described. So what it should do, it should provoke attraction to the message of the personality of Godhead. Whatever actions that we are doing, if they are unable to provoke attraction for message of Krishna, then it is considered to be Shrama Evahi Kevalam. So how, so this is again with reference to the yatanto which we saw in the verse, that both type of people are trying hard. Yogis are trying hard, and the non-yogi, the other people are also trying hard. However, one is able to see, understand, and see things in the right perspective. The others, those who are also trying, but they are unsuccessful. And also, so Krishna Prabhupada, as Sutta Goswami says this in this verse, that for such people, those whose efforts are misguided, those whose efforts are unproductive, all their efforts are useless labor. Shrama eva hi kevalam. So the process, why it is important to have knowledge of soul and understand that it has transmigration, it has reincarnation, it is subject to reincarnation, it will be forced to accept new bodies. Why it is important to know that if it doesn't have this knowledge, then one is forced to live purely at a bodily level. What do you mean living at a bodily platform or bodily level? Means to live life only to satisfy bodily drives and bodily desires. When you don't have knowledge of spirit, all that what you have is your body, your mind, and your senses, and all of them the are going in five senses are driving mind in five different directions.
The soul.
So the bodily drive, bodily urges that will come, and the bodily desires that mind will cultivate from association, from contemplation, or from seeing other people do things. Whatever these desires one will cultivate, the entire lifetime will be wasted in satisfying those bodily urges and bodily desires. So this is acting at a level of body. Means acting at a level of soul requires one to know about soul, one to have knowledge about soul. And when you have that knowledge, then you will be willing to regulate or control bodily drives and bodily desires, so that you can focus on needs, what is needed by the soul, doing those things which are needed by the soul. One does not have that knowledge, then one is forced to act like an animal. No animal can think of soul. So animal purely live life to satisfy their bodily drives and bodily desires. They cannot contemplate how to maintain, how to feed soul, how to make soul happy. They have no knowledge of that. So anybody who does not have knowledge of soul will end up living life like a animal, like a dvipada pashu, because they will have no desire to regulate anything, and they will simply waste all their life in satisfying their bodily urges and bodily desires. So one should learn to rule the bodily drives and desires, not being ruled by them. And anybody who knows about soul can do this. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Why will one waste one's time in regulating anything? Then you'll want to have complete freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want. But when you know about soul, then the question of regulation will comes in. Why? We will see now. With the knowledge about soul and movement from one body to another, one will be forced to inquire what govern this movement, who is in control here, who is controlling this changing of body, that I today am in male's body, somebody else could be in a female body, somebody is in dog's body. Within male body also, I see some male bodies who are born on the street, living a very hellish life, have no clothes to wear, have no place to stay, and have all kind of diseases, deformity, um, and they're not, don't get food, they have no place to stay, no clothes to wear, and living a very sorry life. And one who are probably living a far better life than me, living in a palace like home, have a lot of people to serve, and have a lot of money, have a lot of clothes to wear, have a lot of food to eat, much better looking than me, much better health than me, and they can have multiple other things better than me. So there are so many people who are worse than me, so many people who are like me, so many people who are far better than me. So um, why am I where am I today? That's the question. And once anybody who understand that I am a soul and I also have to change my body, he will be forced to inquire who is in control of my movement. Why was I put into this body in the first place? And from this body, where am I going to go next? And so this inquiry will bring one to the law of karma. Actually, one will understand that all this is can be explained not because somebody has a why I was not put given birth in a palace, not because somebody who is controlling this has anything negative against me, has a negative agenda against me, that he did not put me into the palace when my turn was there to take birth. Why I was not given birth in a palace? Not because somebody who is in control had some negative agenda against me. And why I was not given birth on the street or in a very bad area, slum, is not because the one who was controlling this had some positive agenda with me. Was my well-wisher, was he knew me, therefore he put me where he's put me. All this, Krishna says, Upadrashta Anumantacha, Udasina Vadasina. Now he's regulating all this, but he's not interfering into this. All this is driven by law of karma. That everybody, whoever perform whatever actions, uh, according to whatever the fruits are fructified for that person, and whatever the desires one have cultivated, he's getting bodies accordingly. More intelligent person will, now having known this, one will then have, as Puru Prabhu explained, one will have some desire to regulate one's activity. That if I have ability to go up, I also have possibility of going down or staying where I am. Then my first job will be to protect myself from going down. I don't want to degrade. Nobody wants to get a demotion in office, or nobody wants to get less marks as a student than what they are getting today. So at least I want to protect myself from going down, which means I need to do certain kind of activities which I will consider them as good, and then that will help me from, that will save me from going down, but they will keep me at the same level. But as every human being has this natural tendency, how I can improve upon this, and how can I go bigger, upper, how can I go upwards? So for that, I can regulate my activities more and do more, engage in more doing good at work. Now, all this is still um, uh, now all this is good. One may actually try and do that. One may try to save oneself from degrading and keeping them oneself at the same level, and try and improve one's own standard by performing a lot of good karma. Now, but performing a lot of good karma, one has to bring some regulation into one's activities. One cannot do, if I want to eat, kill somebody and eat, I don't want to do that, because then that will, that is bad karma, that can give me negative reaction. If I start killing animals and eating them, I may be given a animal's body next, where I will have better facility of eating raw meat. That's dangerous path. So I will bring some regulation into my life, and with the hope that I will not go down, I will at the most stay at the same level, or I will improve. But a more intelligent person will also see problem with this, because whatever birth that we are going to get, whatever current birth we have, we see people dying all around us. Yesterday there was a news of a 46-year-old actor, TV actor, dying in the gymnasium. He was probably, he was a fit person working out in gym, and he fell down, got a cardiac arrest and died. Now people of all ages are dying. It's, there's no limitation that only 80 plus people die, and those who are up to below 80 have a license to not die till they attain that age. There's nothing like that exists. So people from all ages, people from all nationalities, people from all caste, people, males are dying, children are dying, females are dying. So old people are also dying. So a more intelligent person will see a problem with this, because this whole world is created in such a systematic way. It's functioning in such a fabulous way. It's the sun's movement, the moon's movement, the air, the high tide, the low tide, the season, the wind directions, everything working so accurately. We are able to predict it with some mathematical formula. Now, the sun is not supposed to follow what my prediction is, but it's so accurate, it's so moment, or so mathematically definable, that I'm actually able to predict the time when sun will rise and he will set. And he doesn't, he's not obliged to do that, but he does it because there seems to be some automatic machine that seems to be at work, which produce this result day after day, month after month, year after year, which is giving us confidence that they will do the same every day. But so in this such a perfect looking world, if my only purpose is to enjoy, then why am I given death? My death actually creates a disturbance in this whole so the in the whole material world. Because when I become old, when I get disease, and when I die, all my plans for enjoyment are shaken up, are broken. So this taking, dying, getting old, diseased and dying has a problem, because whatever arrangements that I will do today are going to be fragile, are going to be with me only for only momentarily available with me. These are all temporary facilities. I may create wonderful facility for eating, sleeping, mating and defending, and all those are temporary. I will have to redo whole thing again when I get a new body. I'll again have to go to school, again have to get a degree, again have to have friends, again have to get married, again have to produce children, again have to buy insurance, provide for my old age, and again die and again redo everything. Now, this itself is a problem, because if world which is so perfect, death makes this death puts a question mark and on why at all. If God's will is to for me to enjoy perpetually, why am I given death? Where at the death and old age also, old age, disease and death really uh, blow away all my plans for enjoyment. So the it doesn't seems to be the purpose of the world. That enjoyment doesn't seems to be the purpose, though apparently there are all facilities for enjoyment. That does not seems to be the purpose of the world, and hence one should inquire about how can a soul get out of this cycle of birth, because soul has an innate desire to attain eternal living and eternal happiness, eternal bliss. And both one will with simple observation also one will figure out that both things are impossible to attain in this world. So one should inquire about how a soul can get eternal living and eternal happiness. And this is the beginning of spiritual quest. So anybody who does not have knowledge of a soul cannot attain this. Prahlad Maharaj in a beautiful prayer to Nrsimhadev says that Tvada Tvada Virya Gayana Maha Amruta Mugdha Chitta. Mahamruta Magna Chitta, that in singing your glories, O my Lord, I experience Maha Amruta, I experience great nectar. But now, so I'm not worried about myself, O Lord. Prahlad Maharaj is offering prayers to Nrsimhadev, saying that Tvad Virya Gayana Mahamruta Magna Chitta. My chitta becomes Magna. Why? And with Amrutam. Amrutam means and fitful with nectar. When I'm singing your glories, O my Lord. However, I'm worried about those people. Shoche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharada bharamud vahato vimudham. I am worried about those people who, my concern is only for those fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I'm simply concerned with love for them. Prahlad Maharaj is worried that where this society is going. While he says, I'm happy glorifying you, but I'm worried about those people who have no knowledge about you. So the the process of transmigration can be seen who has Jnana Chakshu only. So what should then one do? Uh, if one does not have eyes of knowledge, what is their hope? How will they progress in their life? So so we've seen the first part where people, the yogis have eyes of knowledge. Yogis can see, have the concept of soul. They have understanding of the concept of soul. They have understanding of the concept of reincarnation, and therefore they all are practicing attain eternal life and eternal happiness by going to the spiritual world, dhama paramam mama. However, not everybody is on that path. We look around and we will see that most people around us today are don't have very firm knowledge about the soul, don't have very firm knowledge about even reincarnation, and what to speak of spiritual world. They don't, if somebody doesn't know about soul, how can they even understand spiritual world? They have the concept of spiritual world is completely foreign to them, so they have no understanding of going there. So, what will happen to such people? How such people can be helped by Krishna to come to a platform? From there, they can at least start inquiring about Krishna. So, Krishna speaks about them in the next three verses, that verse 12, 13, and 14. So, verse 12, in this section, Krishna is explaining that how a soul, how a person, assume he wants to operate only at a bodily level for satisfying his bodily urges and bodily desires. For such person also, how Krishna is helping. He is helping him at multiple levels. At the level of universe, Krishna is helping them. At the level of planet Earth, Krishna is helping them. And at the level of body, Krishna is helping them. And then in the 15th verse, Krishna will explain that, okay, one is desirous of inquiring about Krishna, how Krishna help those. How one is wants to make spiritual inquiries, how Krishna is helping those also. So the first three verses, 12, 13, 14, talks about those who want to enjoy material life, how Krishna is helping them. Without Krishna's help, even that enjoyment is impossible. And 15th verse, Krishna is going to explain those people who are desirous of making spiritual inquiry and spiritual progress, how Krishna will help them, how Krishna will help them internally and externally. We will see how far we can go. And yeah, we have another 30 minutes, 28 minutes. So we should be able to cover this aspect. So, so Krishna start talking about about how he helped people at a universal level. That if Krishna were not to be there, even material plans for enjoying with senses, bodily drive, enjoying with our body, will be impossible to fulfill. And Krishna gives three examples. In this, he speaks about the three aspects which are helpful for us to enjoy at a bodily level as well. Yad aditya gatam tejo jagat bhasayate khilam yach chandrama asi yach chagno tat tejo vidhi mamakam. So beautiful verse. Again, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. Very substantial statement that Krishna is making. That the splendor of sun, the tej of sun, tej is by which we all experience, that what comes from sun is heat and light, and because of which the whole planet gets, whole world comes to gets illuminated, without which the whole world will be in darkness. Krishna says that light, that splendor comes from me. Again, it's not sufficient. Another two aspects, the chandra, the chandra and Agni, the splendor on Chandra and splendor in Agni also Krishna says comes from me. So these three sources of illumination that Krishna had spoken about in the sixth verse also, Krishna brings up those same points and saying that all of them, whatever they are giving you today, they all that they have, it comes from me, Krishna says. And now this is again again a significant statement, because a science as it today may explain how sun gives energy, but science again cannot have this kind of a conclusion, does not have this kind of a conclusion that sun also gets his energy from somewhere. Krishna says he gets that energy from me, and whatever I give him, he reflects, he just pass it on to you. So the tej that sun is giving is actually comes from Krishna. Now what happens when sun rises? What happens when sun sets? When sun rises, if the whole world comes into action, the animals, the bird, they all start their activity when the sun rises, and they shut down their activities when the sun sets. So we live our life between sunrise and sunset, and people in Mumbai will have nightlife as well. But this is important, and the sun enables the water cycle, the air cycle, the energy cycle. Everything is dependent on sun, and without sun, we cannot imagine our existence. Also, the sun is illuminating the planet, giving proper season, making seasonal changes, making seasons to change. And Earth were to be a little closer to sun, it would have become very hot. And if it were to be a little far away from sun, it would have become very cold. Again, the vegetation or the life as what we see in on Earth would not have been possible in either of those cases. So sun and Earth is perfectly placed in its orbit, and all that is possible because Krishna is controlling all this. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes that with the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. Uh, they set fire to prepare foodstuff. They set fire to start factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So, if one can understand that the light and the splendor of the sun, moon, fire coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin simply by understanding that. That again, at this point of time, the person wants to only operate at a bodily level, has no knowledge of soul, no knowledge of transmigration, and no knowledge of God. But Krishna, by studying Bhagavad Gita, if one can come to this understanding that the the energy, the tej in the sun, moon, and fire comes from Krishna, his inquiry towards Krishna will increase. He will start becoming more curious about Krishna. He will, and his Krishna consciousness will begin. Prabhupada says that by moonshine, all vegetables are nourished. Moonshine is also pleasing, that people can easily understand that they are living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Without his mercy, there cannot be sun. Without his mercy, there cannot be moon, and there cannot be fire. And without help of sun, moon, fire, no one can live. So now these are, Prabhupada says a beautiful word, provoke. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul. Provoke is a deliberate shaking up of thoughts, injecting thoughts into one's mind, that see, all this is there and all this is possible because Krishna exists. Because there is Krishna, all this is there. Then immediately the question can come to one's mind, then who is Krishna? And do we have a relationship with him? What am I supposed to do to be in harmony with that Krishna? And this is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Once we get these questions, then one can progress towards Krishna. 13th verse, Gama Vishya cha Bhutani Dharamyam Aham Ojasaha Pushmani Aushadhi Sarvaha Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply juice of life to all the vegetables. Another significant statement by Krishna, that that all the planets, the Prabhupada writes in the purport, similarly all these planets are floating in the space, and this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His energy is sustaining each planet just like a handful of dust. By his strength and energy, all moving and non-moving things stay in their place. It is said in the Vedic hymns that because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is shining and the planets are steadily moving. Were it not for him, all the planets would scatter like dust in the air and perish. Now, again, a significant statement by Krishna, that he enters into each planet and then keeps them floating in their orbit. Now, the soul has entered our bodies. The soul currently is present in our body, because of which our body are moving. Our body can float in air, in float in water. We can swim, we can run, we can stand, we can walk. Now making this body move is easy with the presence of soul, because soul is inside the body. The moment soul leaves the body, the same body becomes heavy. You need four people to carry it, and they also can't carry it for a long time. They just need to keep changing shoulders, and more people replaces them. The moment soul leaves the body, the same body becomes heavy, heavy matter, purely heavy matter. And then it sinks in the water. If the soul leaves, the body sinks. Eventually it will come out, but post fermentation. But originally the body sinks the moment the soul leaves the body, because the matter is heavy. And so the matter functions, um, matter can function in a pre-designed way only when it is, there is an energy present inside it. And Krishna says, I am that energy. I enter those planets and keep them floating. Just like a soul has entered this body, which keeps it moving from one place to another. So Krishna is keeping these planets floating in their orbit. Now, the explanation offered by science is a partial explanation of how things happening. They don't explain why there is sun. They may explain how sun is giving light, and how using light where vegetation and living entities are able to sustain. But why sun exists, nobody knows that. Why the science try and answer how part of it, how part of the material phenomena which they observe around, but they can't answer why part of it, why at all sun exists, why at all earth has to rotate, who has put the sun where it is right now there. It's like we entered a classroom yesterday at 6:30 a.m. The Vyasasan was set, the microphone was set, the speaker was arranged, the reeds were there, people were not there, but everything was there. Air condition was switched on, all the arrangements were done. Now somebody um, may think that they always existed. Can somebody think that they always existed like that over there? No. But how a speaker is speaking and people are listening, one may provide an explanation that he's speaking into the microphone, which is connected with by electricity to a speaker, and because of this mechanism, the speaker is throwing an output by way of which this 100 people who are sitting in that classroom are able to hear. Now this is a how explanation. But why at all, who put this microphone in the first place, who thought of putting that microphone in the first place, who designed it in such a way that the microphone, you speak into the microphone, and the speaker which is kept at a distance can actually produce an output which 100 people can hear. Who's put an air conditioner there, and who is one may explain how air conditioning is cooling the room, but how, why at all the air conditioner exists? Now these are the why questions which science cannot answer, and this is answered by Bhagavad Gita, this is answered by scriptures. That's why the scriptures are so important to understand, to make sense of the world in its entirety, not partially. Similarly, Prabhupada says further that similarly it is due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to moon's influence, the vegetable becomes delicious. Without the moonshine, vegetables neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably and enjoying food due to the supply from Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. The word rasatmakaha is very significant. Everything becomes palatable by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon. Now, this is at the planet level. The first one we saw, 12th verse, was at the universe level, where the Krishna says the sun, I'm placing the sun and the moon and the fire so that this dark planet can get eliminated, and the vegetation can grow, and the oxygen cycle can function, the energy cycle can function, the water cycle can function. All that get triggered by sun. And the vegetation can be there, and so many things. The whole planet's existence depend upon sun. So Krishna says, I provide that sun, moon, and fire, because of which the whole universe is in existent. Then later he says that what happens at the planet level. So he said, I enter those planets and keep them moving in their orbit. So it is by my arrangement this whole thing exists. So for somebody to see that the winter is coming and the summer is gone, and the winter will go, next summer will come, and again the rain will come. Now all that is possible because of the rotation, and Krishna saying it's by my arrangement it's happening. The earth is rotating, the sun and the earth is rotating around it itself and also against the sun, and it's all happening so perfectly because I have arranged for it. Not that it's all happening by chance, or it's not happening because of some accident. It is me who is doing it, though I might not be visible. So later, Krishna in the 14th verse says that how he is helping us to live life at a bodily level also. And bodily level, the one activity which we'll all do is eat food. So Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Prani Nam Deham Ashrita. Those pranis who have taken shelter of Deha, those who believe that they are Deha, for them, all the pranis, all the living entities, Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. Vaishvanar, I am the Vaishvanar. And what does he do? Prana Pana Samayukta Pachamyam Anna Chaturvidham. The four type of foodstuff, four kind of foodstuff that one is eating, busy eating, uh, their digestion depends upon the Vaishwanara. Vaishwanara is the Devata, living entity, is a Devata who is who is presiding over the digestion system. And Krishna says, I am that Vaishwanar who help digest the four kind of foodstuff that you are eating, all the living entities are eating. Prabhupada elaborates that according to Ayurveda Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach which digests all food sent there. When the fire is not blazing, there is no hunger. When the fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes when the fire is not going nicely, treatment is required. This fire is representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, since he is helping in the digestion of all kind of food stuff, the living entity is not independent in the eating process. Unless Supreme Lord help him digest, there is no possibility of eating. He thus produces and digests food stuff, and by his grace only we are enjoying life. So anybody who wants to purely live at the bodily level will want to eat a lot of food stuff. And Krishna says, even basic action that happens in the in the it's an involuntary action. We don't sit down to digest food. Just like I'm sitting here and I'm raising my hand, I'm raising second hand. I can make movement, I can run. These are voluntary actions. Now the digestion is an involuntary action. Krishna says, I do that. And the and Krishna says this is what will be required. So for any living entity to think that he can survive without Krishna, it is impossible. So this is the point Krishna is making, that I am required at every step in for you. Without me, your existence itself is impossible. So why not to surrender to me? Why not to live life in harmony with me? Why live life against my instructions? Why not align with me? Why there is a battle with me? Why you're in constant battle with me? Why don't you come to me? That's the whole point Krishna is trying to make, that I'm there for everything that you need. You want to live life that of an atheist, even atheists eat food, and Krishna says, I digest those food. That food stuff is digested by me, because of the fire of digestion is me. So what else, where else you can go without me? There's no existence without me. So you see me everything in everywhere. So again, the same theme is brought in, but it is brought in much closer, and as close as possible to the very survival and existence of a human being. Without Krishna, there is no question of survival. There's no question of existence of human being. Therefore, Krishna says, align with me. Therefore, Krishna says, come to me. become inquisitive about me, inquire about me, and attain me at the end. Anybody who want to progress on that path, Krishna will help them in two ways, two different ways, internally and externally, which is explained in this verse. Krishna says, Sarvasya cha aham radhisannivishto, aham radhisannivishto. I am seated in your heart, sannivishto, rudhi, in your heart. Matah smrutir jnanam apohanam cha. From me come smruti. Smruti is remembrance. Jnanam is knowledge, and apohanam cha is forgetfulness. From me comes this remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Vedescha sarver ahameva vidyo. Vedanta krud veda videva chaham. Vedanta krud veda videva chaham. That now the first two lines suggest how Krishna is helping us internally. Sarvasya chaham radhisandhi vishnu. I'm seated inside your heart as a paramatma, as a super soul. And what am I doing? I am providing you with smruti, jnana, and forgetfulness, remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, which actually is helping us. So if when one wants to live life at a bodily level only without Krishna, for the purpose of fulfilling all bodily urges, bodily desires, for that person, Krishna need to give that knowledge using which he can enjoy, and he has to give them forgetfulness of his identity of soul, identity of his super soul, and identity of the knowledge given by Bhagavad Gita. So that knowledge he needs to forget if one has to enjoy at a bodily level. And similarly, when one wants to live life for attaining Krishna at a spiritual level, at a bhakti, one wants to perform devotional service, one will have to forget the pleasures that he enjoyed at a while operating at a bodily level. So before becoming devotee, whatever activities we were indulging into, they were also giving us little pleasures, little drops of pleasures. So unless one become forgetful of those pleasures, one will not be able to become fixed in performing bhakti. Bhakti will give us larger pleasures, but Krishna says this forgetfulness is important for one to transition to bhakti and becoming steady, fixed in bhakti. Eventually this bhakti itself will give us pleasure which are far in greater quantity and quality than what we earlier had experienced. But until that stage comes, one will have to be forgetful, one will have to become forgetful of those and deliberately put effort for cultivating bhakti. So anybody who is remembering, who wants to cultivate bhakti, or who wants to perform only at a bodily level, in both cases Krishna says these three things are required, and Krishna says I provide those three things to a living entity. Vedeshcha sarver ahameva vidyo. Now this is what happens internally. Externally Krishna is available. Veda means knowledge, so Krishna is available in the form of Guru Sadhu Shastra, and knowing which again one can progress towards Krishna, one can become a devotee of Krishna by using the knowledge that is available in externally. We'll see long purport Prabhupada has mentioned. We'll quickly go through this before we conclude and the summary. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the directions of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. So one of the in the 10th chapter, Krishna says, I am Sakshi, that I'm the witness in the heart, in the sitting in the heart. I'm a as a super soul, I'm a witness to everything that you are thinking, that you are doing, that you are willing, and that you are feeling. All these things, I'm witness to that. So Krishna says, the Prabhupada says that the living entity forgets everything, but Krishna knows everything. And according to direction given by a super soul, Krishna, who is sitting in your heart, the activities begin in the new body. So therefore he begins his work according to his past deeds. Requiring knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him as needed. And he forgets also about his past life. So once you uh, leave human body and gets into a dog's body, now you will have to forget all the languages that you were speaking in your previous body. You will have to forget all the etiquettes that you might have had learned in your previous body. Now in the dog's body you need to bark. If you become hungry, you have to bark. For defending also you are barking. For talking to other dogs, he dogs, she dogs, also you are barking. And now who is teaching you that? Forget talking Marathi. In your previous birth you were Maharashtrian, you were speaking fluent Marathi, but in dog's body now you have to bark, and try and start barking. Wagging tail, if you become hungry, if you want to become happy, try and wag tail. You can't you can't dance in ecstasy by raising your hand anymore. You are a dog, so you need some training. And who is that expert trainer? Krishna says, I, as a super soul, am that extra expert trainer, and I teach you, I guide you to do all these activities when you acquire a new body. And for me to function properly as a dog, I need to forget my previous human birth. So Krishna says, I give that forgetfulness also, so that now you can operate happily in your dog's body, and you can mate with the she dog or he dog, and then you can search for food, you can fight with other dogs to prove your supremacy. You can take shelter of your master, you can lick their feet, you can serve them nicely and live like a nice dog in the dog's body. So that training is given by Supreme Lord. As a super soul, moves you he moves with you from human body to dog's body also. Doesn't leave you, will never leave you. Krishna will never leave you, no matter how much we don't want him to be with us. He is never going to leave us in any condition. Said that even if we choose to become a worm in the stool, Krishna will be there with us there as well. So Krishna will never leave us, and we cannot leave him. We cannot live without him as well. So it's best a way is to be in harmony with him, to align with him, and to not compete with him, but to serve him in a devotional happy mood, and then we become happy, he becomes happy. So Prabhupada says further that thus the Lord is not only all pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards different fruitive results. The Vedas, now externally, how Krishna is helping? By Vedas. The Vedas give right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas after offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And Krishna, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. Now, the commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activities and giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good, God is all merciful. The living entity forgets. It is said for the living entity, God is all good and God is all merciful. God gives and God forgets. And God gives and it is said that God gives and God forgives. God gives and forgives. And we humans, we take and we forget. We take from God and we forget God. But God gives us and he forgives us. Forgives us because he knows we are going to forget him soon. We are going to be ungrateful towards him very soon. The moment we are going to receive what he's giving, we are going to take all the things from him and then we will be ungrateful towards him. Therefore, he is already forgiving us, and we take from him and we forget what we have taken, who is given us, and we have no gratitude towards him. We don't develop any gratitude towards him, and therefore we get and we forget. God gives and he forgives. Here, Krishna is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good and God is all merciful. The living entity forgets as soon as he quit his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work from where he ended last life. So, the Supreme Lord is full, full for the deliverance. He's so full. He's also merciful that he's not only supplying food, he's helping it digestive also. And he's a witness to every activity, every good thing that you're doing. Krishna is looking at it. Then he's prepared. He's ready to offer good result of that activity. What to speak of bhakti? When he's bhakti, when we perform bhakti, how much happy he must be becoming, that he wants to give everything to us now. But even if we engage in some good activity, he is ready to offer us good results of that activity. So he's all good and all merciful, and we should have cultivate right knowledge about him. uh, Another beautiful verse which we will look at comes from Bhagavatam, uh, the famous pastime of Gajendra Moksha and Gajendra's prayer. Muktaya, Krishna says that Gajendra is saying there that he's caught up in the material world. His leg is being snatched by a crocodile. He's losing this battle of life. And at that moment, he remembered his past life and picked up or plucked a lotus flower and raise it towards the sky and start offering beautiful prayers that he knew that he had remembered in the previous life. So in that body of a human body of an elephant, Gajendra is offering these beautiful prayers to Lord Krishna. And Lord Hari comes sitting on a on a Garuda immediately, instantly. As soon as he called for Hari, he comes from the sky and accept the flower and immediately kills the crocodile. So one of the beautiful prayer that Gajendra has offered in this, he says that Madruk Prapanna Pashupasha Vimokshaya Vimokshanaya Madruk Prapanna Pashupasha Vimokshanaya Muktaya Bhuri Karunaya Namo Lalaya. That since an animal such as me has surrendered unto you, O Lord, who are you are supremely liberated. But when I surrender unto you, you will release me from this dangerous position. Indeed, being extremely merciful, you incessantly try to deliver me. By your partial feature as Paramatma, you are situated in the heart of all embodied beings. You are celebrated as direct transcendental knowledge and you are unlimited. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, O the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, another beautiful words in which Gajendra is glorifying Lord, saying that the Lord may say that you are now in danger. You think you will lose your life fighting this battle with this crocodile, and therefore you are remembering me, therefore you are surrendering me. But what about those situations when you are in good health, when you are enjoying with all your sheep, elephants, and in your previous birth, when I have at that time also I was providing you with all the facilities that you are enjoying even in the elephant body and earlier in the human body were provided by me, but you were ungrateful to me that time. But then Gajendra is saying as if that, oh Lord, that's true. You have tried so many times to liberate me. You've been so merciful incessantly. You don't get tired only, as if you don't get tired of making an effort to liberate me, providing me with more and more facilities so that I can approach you, I can surrender to you. Those situations you keep creating, you keep providing me with that knowledge and keep uh, trying your best. But you don't get tired only of trying. And a fool like me was so much in ignorance, I never understood that you are trying for my benefit, and now I'm in this great situation, horrible situation, and now I'm surrendered to you again. You are ready to help me, so you are so merciful. So you are merciful because you're trying to help me when I'm in danger, but you always wanted to help me. And it was my ignorance because of which I was not able to understand you properly, O Lord. But now I am want to surrender to you. Bhuri karunaya, namo lalaya. You never get tired of helping me. A very beautiful way which Gajendra is asking, telling this to, admitting to the Lord of his own shortcomings, and how all merciful Krishna is, how God is all good and all merciful. That statement Prabhupada mentioned, how that is true. Prabhupada writes in the purport further that therefore the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas gives us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing different processes of bhakti, one can approach him, and at the end one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Just to summarize, we've spoken about how Krishna help us, no matter what our desire is. Our desire is to live a life where we think there is no God and there is no controller. The world is a result of a big bang, and everything has eliminated, has been created automatically. There is no super intelligence that is behind the setting up of a sun and the seasons and the different cycles in the nature, and whatever we may conceptions we may have, and the world is meant for my enjoyment. Been given senses, that's my facility, I must use it to enjoy to the fullest in my given lifetime. I don't know if I am soul, I don't know if there is next life. Even if this is a worst kind of a animal kind of a understanding of life, which many of the people surrounding us might actually have, and no need to be shocked at that. Some of us might have had similar understanding as well in the past before coming to Krishna consciousness. But even if one has that kind of understanding, Krishna says, I am helping you live life with that understanding. Without my help, even living life with that understanding is also impossible. So let me help you. I will not tell that I'm helping you, but I'm helping you to live life with that kind of a understanding also, which is opposite to a devotional understanding, right? 180-degree opposite to the devotional understanding. So Krishna says, attain liberation using the weapon of detachment. If you cannot do that, then one is bound and forced for transmigration. When one has eyes of knowledge, one has learned the scriptures, one has associated with devotees, one has performed some bhakti, then with that one has developed the eyes of knowledge with which one can see how one is suffering in the world and how one is suffering even in the movement from one body to another. Those who don't have knowledge also should understand that Krishna is essential for their very survival, existence, and whatever enjoyment, so-called enjoyment that they are trying to extract from the world, extract using their senses. So Krishna is essential, Krishna is must. And hence, knowing this, at least they should surrender to him. Krishna help everyone, those who are having material desires as well as those who are having spiritual desire. Desire is the seed. We have the responsibility. We desire as a desirer. We have responsibility to cultivate right desires. And as soon as one has a desire, Krishna will make arrangement to fulfill those desires according to our capacity, our karma available, and the capacity to in the body available and the karma available, fruits of karma that are available. So Krishna is not responsible. Krishna is responsive. Krishna respond to our desire. We are responsible because if we desire properly, Krishna will provide us proper facility. If we desire improperly, Krishna will provide us facility accordingly. Now we don't have to be blaming. We don't have to blame Krishna why he gave me intelligence to make arrangement for drinking and becoming an alcoholic, because we cultivated that desire in the first place. So we are responsible for becoming alcoholic ourselves. We don't have to say that why Krishna, I may desire, but why Krishna should not have given me facilities. But if those facilities were there in your karma, Krishna will give those facilities. But if you desire to become a devotee, Krishna will give you those facilities as well. So it is important as to what we desire. The 2.62 and 2.63 verse play a significant role in this, that whatever we contemplate our mind upon, and from then onwards the downfall starts, our actions gets triggered subsequently. But if we cultivate right desire, if we cultivate spiritual desire, if we cultivate devotional desires, if we cultivate desire to become to please Krishna, make Krishna happy with all our actions and perform bhakti, Krishna will make those arrangements as well. And whatever there, Krishna will give us facilities even which are not as per our karma also. He can give us much more than what is due to be received by us as per our karma. So Krishna is responsive. Krishna is reciprocal. He is not responsible for making a bad desire. He is not responsible. So we must understand this, and we must cultivate right desires, and we must perform sadhana bhakti nicely in association of devotees to attain Krishna ultimately. We have this usual slide where we talk about facility for sadhana bhakti, hearing and chanting, the most important aspect. The morning japa session and evening reading session of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. All of you are welcome to join this. It's time for some question answer we can have.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Swapnil Prabhu has a question, I think. Swapnil Prabhu, you have a question? You have raised hand? Or,
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
yes,
I have
Prabhuji.
actually, it's not a question first. It's about the statement. You, in your today's session, you talked very much about science and spiritualism. So my question, my understanding is, can we say that soul is form of an energy? And as science explains it, the physics laws explains that energy can neither be created nor can be destroyed. It can be transformed from one form to the another. So soul, as we all know, it changes its form, and basically is that understanding correct, that soul can be compared to a divine energy? And
Soul
the second
is,
question,
yeah, no, let's clear this. Soul is energetic, is a source of energy. So there is a energy and there is energetic, and so the source, so there's a source of energy. So everything comes from Krishna, and we also are part and parcel of Krishna. We are fragmented part of Krishna. So when we enter a body, we eliminate this body. We make every nook and corner of this body functional. When we exit the body, the same body becomes dead matter. Now, now we are not like electricity. We use electricity, we use light, we use heat. Now those are another energies. Those are measurable energies, material energies. But we are not spiritual energy. We are a spiritual being. We have a spiritual body, and in the spiritual body, where we have spiritual senses, we can see, we can speak, we can hear, we can smell, we can touch. So in the spiritual form also we have a body. In the spiritual form is not a abstract energy form like electricity or heat or light. So we are a spiritual being. Now we have acquired material bodies at the moment, but as a spiritual being we have identities and we have senses also. So when we move from one body to another body, it's a reincarnation or transmigration. We having becoming forgetful of our own real identity. We are, it's like moving from one movie hall to another movie hall. So right now I'm seeing Spider-Man, I'm associating myself with the Spider-Man. Next movie hall I go and I start watching Superman. Then third movie hall I go, I watching Tiger Kabhi Zinda Tha, whatever. And then I associate with that character. Then fourth movie hall I go, I associate with that character. Now I need to become aware of my own original identity in the in the movement from one movie hall to another movie hall. I'm forgetting who I was really. Who I was, who I'm Swapnil Adhav, I'm an engineer, I have a family. I'm forgetting all that. I'm just moving from one hall to another hall. And during those 3 hours, I'm associating myself with the character I like most in the screen. Now, this is what is our position. When I become aware of my original identity, then I say, Ki, do I have to necessarily go to the next movie hall or can I go home? Then that's the question. Then this is where, then what is it that I have to do to be able to go home? Then this is the trigger. that's how we uh, that's how we will. So this is our energy. We are not energy form, we are energetic. Yeah, you can have second questions if this is okay.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. I mean, that explains, it clears my doubt. Second issue is that whenever we discuss in parallels with science and spiritualism, we always say, uh, uh, I mean, as a devotee, as a Krishna devotee, I don't feel that science is our competitor. But with spiritualism, science has always seems to be a competitor, and spiritualism always says that where science fails, there spiritualism has an explanation. So my question was, why can't science be used to understand spiritualism in depth rather than saying that do not science has limitation. We all know science has limitation, but can science be used to understand spiritualism in depth? Because uh, in any part of our life, say till our educational level, we all graduated at 10th, science was a compulsory subject to us. Thereon we might differ, we take a different stream, accounts and arts, and also science and engineering. So can't we can we have that understanding that science can understand spiritualism and God more?
Definitely. All early scientists were drew a conclusion that the world cannot function, the world which we are explaining uh, cannot function without a superhuman brain. Without, there's a design argument in the world which is unrefutable. So all the early scientists were actually uh, dharmic, or they were god conscious. So they would have their own conceptions of god according to their beliefs, but they never decline saying that the science is ultimate. Reason why this debate happened in recent times is because of the scientists who happen to be atheists. Now they put everything to the test of science, that if spirituality has to exist, it has to be approved by science. And then only it can be acceptable to the society. It should be acceptable to the society, otherwise it should not be. Now their presumption is that science can explain everything. All the world phenomena can be explained by science, is what is the presumption which brought these two societies to the loghead, where they say that science cannot explain. And that's true. Even science, the law of Newtonic physics was replaced by quantum physics later. So whatever seems perfect, perfect scientific formula, perfect scientific siddhanta today actually can change tomorrow with more explanation coming. and and that's true. That's, we have seen that everything that has been developed by humans last for some time, but eventually it gets changed. The laws change. But and again, science, uh, for example, the law of gravity. We may say what is law of gravity is by which objects keep moving in orbit. Objects stay in orbit is law of gravity. And why objects stay in orbit? Because of law of gravity. So this you kind of create a circular reference. So there is an explanation. There is a mathematical formula by which we can calculate something, can predict something, but we can't say why it is there, why it exists, why who put that in place in the first place, who designed it in this way, why those objects keep moving in such a perfect orbit, and why, which causes so many changes on the planet Earth, which causes the seasonal change, which causes the day and night to change, the morning evenings, the high tide, low tide, and it's so much happening on this planet which is predictable, but nobody can say why it is there or who designed it. So that design argument becomes incomplete. That explanation becomes incomplete without reference to the existence of superhuman brain who has designed it, whose presence is not visible today as an operator. We don't see somebody coming and switching on light and then the sun starts to rise. There's no switch on switch off that's happening. We see everything seems to be happening automatically, but as we see that anything automatic only confirms the absence of operator. It doesn't tell us that there is no operator at all. If we go to mall, the door opens automatically. We understand that the operator is absent. There is nobody here to push a button does that the doors will open. There are sensors in place who sense the movement and then accordingly initiate signals which opens the door. Walks into a dark room, suddenly the lights are switched on. They're also operating on the sensors. Um, so this is how we understand that when science becomes the sole parameter for doing all explanation or approving everything, every knowledge, everything that is knowledge is approved, has to be approved by science, or if it is not approved by science, then it is no knowledge. Now with this, the mind is also not a knowledge. Mind is also not an area of knowledge because nobody can see, feel, and touch mind. So even the psychology is considered to be a half science. Basically the hardcore scientist doesn't really understand or doesn't approve mind psychology also as a scientific, or they call it half science or a quarter science. It's not science because mind is not measurable. Nothing can be seen, felt, touched, and measured. So so this is not a problem between science and spirituality. It is between those scientists who think everything has to be approved by the science in order to become a branch of knowledge, or any knowledge, if it is if it has a recognition as a knowledge, then it has to be approved by scientists. Now that kind of a conception becomes a problem, because then there are so many things which exist and which are unexplainable by science today, but they are explainable by other sources of scriptures. For example, those should be accepted as Shabda Praman. And why? Because they offer us proper explanation. They offer us proper logical explanation. The most logical explanation of creation is available in the Bhagavatam, and they make sense. If it makes sense, if it is acceptable, it should be considered as knowledge. And so this is the problem is more seen today because of the atheist scientist of today versus the God conscious scientist of past. So in past, nobody doubted God's role in the in the creation and in the even the functioning of creation. So we don't put it as science versus spirituality. Both should help each other. Rather, both explains each other. Science is has its own value and has its own merits, and has substantially improved all of our lives today, which need not be declined. But science being the only source of approving authority, acting as an approving authority, that is not correct. That is not correct for many counts. And scripture is the ultimate Shabda Praman. And to the extent science can help us establish the Siddhanta which is explained in the scriptures, that is acceptable. But otherwise, Shabda Praman has the final word.
So, Prabhuji, I understand one final in this is that Science can be explanator, science cannot be creator, right? Creator can be best understood spiritually, not scientifically. Am I right, Prabhuji, in that statement?
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Vinod Prabhu, you have a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. I have one question, Prabhuji, in the last slide as you were talking, that we are responsible for our desires, and it's not the Krishna who is responsible for our desires. But it many times, we find that we are not, don't want to do something, but suddenly it came in our mind, and then we turn and back and did something. So just take an example where we are walking on the street, somebody is begging. So sometimes it doesn't come in mind that okay, will not give to that person or that people was asking. But after walking 2-3 steps ahead, suddenly it came to your mind and you go back and give that to a person. So we feel that is a Krishna desire that that person should not go hungry, and that's why it came in my mind and I turned back. So I'm just trying to analyze that many of our desires, many of our actions are guided and inspired by Krishna. So we can simply say that it's not we are only responsible for our desires, or there is intervention.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. So the question is, when are we desiring and when is Krishna acting through us? Now, so the whole process, everything happens at the level of mind, and the mind is influenced by many factors. The desires, the mind is receiving inputs from different senses. The five senses are bringing five types of inputs to the mind. Any sight, I see things, I see a object of which I feel like touching, see object which I like hearing, and tasting, and whatever. The different desires can come to me from our environment in which we are functioning. There are certain actions I might have had done in past which has impressions in my mind. Some desires can get triggered from those impressions also. I must have had must have uh, tasted alcohol in past, must have eaten meat in past, might have had gone for movies with friends or picnics with friends and parties with friends and colleagues and whatever. So I have those impressions in my mind. Whenever those similar situations can come up, it can create a trigger, a desire in me, that because of those past impressions. So there are past impressions from the current life as well as from the past life, and there are fresh inputs that we receive from the environment, and our association, of course. All of them can have influence on my desires, what I'm desiring. Plus, I have my own modes. Now, modes of material nature are what we acquire at birth, and we improve basis our association. The modes, if we happen to be a sattva guni person, um, then more likely or not, we may actually end up giving something to that person who is begging. Because the Sattva-guni person, the qualities of Sattva-guni person that we may remember is a person who is not a sinful and who is basically knowledgeable and who is happy. Who is knowledgeable, will want to share knowledge and happiness with others. And one who is hungry cannot be happy, cannot acquire any knowledge. So a Sattva Guni person will most often offer help to others very easily. A Rajoguni person may even not notice that person is begging. He may be so much intrude in his own actions. ये करना है, वो करना है, यहाँ जाना है, वहाँ जाना है, इसको ये बोला था, ये नहीं हुआ, वो करना है. And he may not even take notice of this person sitting here and begging. A Tamoguni person may feel that उसको क्यों खाने को दूं, मुझे ही खाने को नहीं मिला, एक सुबह ही तो मैं 2-4 ही पराठे खा पाया, 4 पराठे नहीं खा पाया, अभी मुझे भूख लगी है, अभी मैं मेरा देखूंगा कि इसको दूंगा. And then he may just rush towards some food stall or food stuff, wherever he may uh, get some food to eat, and or he might be just lazy to take notice of this person sitting and begging. So now if you summarize, our desires can get affected by any of these things. Plus, the soul, super soul, can also guide us and can guide us to do certain things in certain way. now, now, if you see the input coming from five senses, the input coming from the association, people whom we are associating, input coming from our past impressions and the fresh situations. We've indulged a lot in the, say, alcohol earlier. Now suddenly we see a alcohol shop in front of us, and then there is a, we are in two minds whether to go there. अभी मैं डिवोटी बनने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, तो ये मुझे नहीं जाना चाहिए. So somebody is then, कोई देख नहीं रहा है, जाके आते हैं, आज लास्ट की बार जाते हैं, अगले कल से नहीं जाएंगे. There could be a tussle that can happen in between, in our mind, and all these factors can contribute. So including Krishna sitting in our heart saying that, you should help, you should do this, you should do that, or you should help that beggar, or the pure goodness in which we are operating. So it will be very difficult to pinpoint who is responsible. But end of the day, even if if the desire comes from Krishna, or desire comes from our bad association, that let's enter the alcohol shop and today is the last time, tomorrow onwards we will not. Uh, it's ultimately the soul still has a free will to act on it or not act on it. What I mean by this is that whoever, at times the Krishna may give you a suggestion that, let's it's 11 o'clock, let's switch on the Zoom meeting and hear the class. However, our modes can superimpose their desires on you, saying that no, it's 11 a.m., IPL is starting, let's watch the cricket match. Today is the only day you are at home, you otherwise work hard 5 days 6 days a week. Today you deserve a break, you deserve to see a match live when it's happening and enjoy. You deserve this because you have worked hard for it. So don't listen to the class, switch on the TV and watch the match. Now this interaction can very much go on inside our mind. So not only when Krishna suggesting, we may accept, our we that Krishna suggestions can get overpowered by our association or by our past indulgence. So ultimately, even if Krishna suggests, we may not always accept it. And whatever the suggestion which comes from our external environment or our past impressions, and whatever finally we act upon, whatever the final desire that we choose to entertain, ध्यायतो विषयान पुंसा, जिसका हम ध्यान करने लगते हैं, कंटेम्पलेट करने लगते हैं, and then the degradation, the 8 step follows. Vishayan ध्यायतो विषयान पुंसा, that object on which we choose to finally contemplate, now that can come from any sources, but the choice is ours, and hence we are responsible. If we choose wisely, we get a devotional reward. If we choose or make a good choice, not a wise choice, means to become a devotional choice. Devotional nahi choice hai, but sinful choice to kam se kam nahi hai, then we get good fruit. Or if we do a sinful choice, then we get a bad fruit. But ultimately, our responsibility lies with us.
Okay, very. Thank you so much for a nice explanation. It was a wonderful class, Roji. Thank you.
Thank you, Broji. Hare Krishna. Vikas Broji, you have hand raised.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandvat Pranam. Actually, I didn't have any question, but as Vinod Prabhuji asked this, so can we also understand it like that? Instead of giving money to the beggar, because we don't know the end use of it, and as it is often explained that if in case wherever we incur our money or something which can be the end use of which is not known to us, so ultimately the karma of it, whatever what is the end use of that particular money, that will also be incurring fruit to us. So is not it better to give him, if he is ultimately begging only, would it be better to give him some kind of prasadam or whatever kind of eatable is available in the near vicinity? That came actually in my mind. So I would seek clarification on that. But otherwise, the session wise, it was just as nectarian that you mixed actually the crux, some crux of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam together. And in the summary, actually, the 5 points I could very much related to the Bhagavatam reading sessions that so many times it has come that wherein it is explained that from an ant to an elephant, Krishna is feeding on daily basis, and for whatever time means for whatever 2-3 times in a day they are eating. So Krishna is providing them ultimately liberation of every human being, every 84 lakh species. He is working hard for that. And what note you explained in that, and the so basic thing that came to my mind was that ultimately like the Krishna has designed milk for us to drink, and it is very it is healthy in protein. But at the same time, when this milk is injected in the veins, the person can get die. So the even the intricate or the complex reactions taking place uh, in our own body for the development of it, of the material development of the body, are also being taken care of Krishna in such a nice way that they are manifesting in the intelligence of the particular innovator, that this particular thing is to be done like that. So it is so overwhelming and it is so blissful that Krishna is taking care even of the single thing that is happening in our life. So and the means the sole motive of attending your class, it gave a new perspective, like that we were thinking on the broad spectrum, like that bhumi rabo nalo vayu, but when it comes, like as you explained in this class, it is actually the small thing, even that whether I am just taking inhaling a breath, Krishna is taking care of that. The dirt and dust, it should not go inside, and he has given the hairs us to filter that particular dust and dirt, which are not coming automatically, but those are provided. So it is ultimately like what I am doing to Krishna is just nothing against what he is providing to me. So this gives a perspective like that we must try hard to do something for Krishna, at least in this life, and ultimately the benefit will be ours. So will this understanding will be correct, Prabhuji? And what, how much more we should endeavor? Like you only explained that His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhuji says that we must aspire for the spiritual service, spiritual desires. We must aspire for spiritual desires, and Krishna makes it happen. So what kind of basic spiritual desires we can have, so that at least if we are not serving to Krishna, at least we can become obliged to him for the small thing he is doing for us in our day-to-day life, in our every hour or in every minute for that matter. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna.
very much for this wonderful nectar you have poured in today's class. Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. So yeah, whether to give money or to give food stuff depends on time, place, circumstance, and what facility that we all have. But yes, I mean, it's a so giving as a grahastha, it is our duty to give also to the needy. So that way also, even if we give something, it will be useful. In Vrindavan Yatra, we used to recommend everybody to whichever temple we visit, give something, give something. That habit of giving should be there. Whatever you give, give. And so that way we should give wherever we can, wherever we can. And as a grahastha, this is our varnashram dharma. One of our dharma is to give, to sustain those who are in need. And best thing to give is to give prasad. So that's what we do in all our temples. We distribute free food, food for life, under food for life programs, that nobody whoever walks into the temple gets at least a khichdi, a bowl of khichdi, so that they don't go hungry back home. So uh, depends upon whatever our time, place, circumstances are, and whatever we can, we should give. About how should we cultivate our desire for serving Krishna? Yes, having realized this is the word provoke used by Prabhupada in the purport is very significant. Provoke or inject. Provoking is forcibly shaking up one's consciousness. Provoke is not used generally in the positive sense, but Prabhupada used it for the purpose of provoking thoughts about Krishna consciousness, provoking, at least getting some basic gratitude towards Krishna and becoming humble in front of Krishna. That the digestion is the most involuntary, biggest involuntary process. We eat and we forget, and it keeps happening in the back end without our realization. And we don't So, but that process itself is so complex. When the scientists are thinking of replacing, if my hand gets has to be replaced, it can be replaced by an artificial hand. Heart can be replaced by a pacemaker, or lungs can be replaced by ventilator, and so on and so forth. So when people thought of thinking of making a machine to replace our digestive system, they realize that it's so complex that you need a series of factories in order to replace that. How a food stuff that we consume is broken into particles, and the nectar, the rasa, is drawn out of it, which gets converted into the nutrient, and the blood, and everything gets refurbished and recirculated back into the body, is extremely complex. And if we were to replace it by a machinery outside the body, then you need a huge chain of machines. It's not cannot be just done by one machinery, so you need a chain of machinery in order to be able to process food, and in the same way that our body process. But we do our body function, process it day in day out without any we realizing it. And the vayu, the prana and apana vayu help in that process as well. So it's extremely complex. Design of our body itself is good enough for us to become become humble and submissive towards Krishna. And again, this body is um, not the outcome of a blast. It's a design. Our body itself is a subject matter of huge design that we are still trying to understand, as Haresh Prabhu also and Jigna Mataji also said. We still can't understand a lot of things about our own human body. It's still trying to figure out what to speak of creating it, what to speak of the so when we think of Krishna, we think of Krishna as Makhanchor. It is the same Krishna who is creating this complex universe. Now it's the same Krishna who existed when no one existed, who created Brahma and asked Brahma to create human body, the mankind, give and who's created the universe, who's created the sun, moon, the whole law of karma, the Durga Devi, the Shiva, everyone has been created by him. And he's the same Krishna who we worship as Damodar, Lord Damodar, who's been tied to the ukhal by Mother Yashoda, who feels scared in his pastime. And the same Krishna, so it's to understand Krishna with the right perspective. And when we take darshan of Krishna, when we speak with devotees who are in serving 24-hour service of Krishna, this knowledge should give us that humble mood, that whom we are dealing with, how complex, or how it's like the bigger the person with whom we deal with, the more humbler we become. If we were to visit king, or if a king were to visit our home, then our mood will be completely different. So same is should be the what to speak of Krishna, who is king of this universe, or the king of all the universes, the supreme personality of Godhead. How much humble we can be, how much submissive we can be toward in front of him. And the same Krishna is our friend, same Krishna is guiding us, same Krishna is providing us. So knowing this, our gratitude towards Krishna should increase, and we should become more serious, sincere in our determination to go back to Krishna. Swapnil Prabhuji, you have a question? You see your hand raised again?
Yes, Prabhuji, while you gave very beautiful explanation to Vinod Prabhuji's question on whether we should help anyone who is wanting the help. My question was, and probably I just want to whether my understanding is correct, that why there are so much miseries in this world, and why these miseries are not ending. I mean, we are helping, still we see miseries everywhere we go. We see people around who are full of miseries in different form, and they are not ending. And the question and the answer, is it my understanding correct that every event has an duration. Say, for example, if I have to do something in 2 days, that thing has to happen after 2 days. I have to wait for 48 hours. I cannot do it early because even the sun rotation has 24 hours. A day has a rotation of 24 hours. So does that mean the sanctioned miseries to anyone is because of his karmas, and it will last long till it has been sanctioned? It's like this misery will be there for your entire life. Do whatsoever, or it may be for some 10 years or 15 years or whatever. And that's why miseries don't end in this world. Or is there any other explanation to this miseries all around? And about being giving arms to someone who wants, am I right in my thinking that when I part my, whether it is money or whatever food I am having or prasadam I am having, I am parting it with someone, is because I think I feel myself that he may deserve, at this circumstances he may deserve more than me, and if I am having that much capability, I should share it. Is that thinking correct, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
So about why miseries don't end, because we don't train people in cultivating proper desires, because of which so desire is the seed. If you'd have remembered the verse 13.22 where we says that bhungte prakriti jan gunan, this desire is to enjoy is the seed. Now that triggers everything else. And so why there are miseries in the world in the first place? There could be three possible explanations. One is by chance, that it's a matter of lottery, that somebody is born without eyes, without legs, without home, and been thrown at the garbage area, just and then somehow survives, and then start begging on the streets and lived a very miserable looking, externally miserable looking life. uh, is it a matter of chance? There could be a matter of chance. It's a lottery, and it's bad luck that they picked up wrong parents and they ended up going there where they landed up, like in this miserable kind of a condition. Second explanation could be, it's a matter of favorism, that somebody has an agenda against me, and he does not like me. Somebody who is in control of this whole process does not like me. Therefore, to take revenge, he's put me into this horrible condition. Had it been some other person instead of him, he could have given me much better position. So it's a favorism. So it's like a scorer favors India. Therefore, when India comes to bat, he just put 200 runs on the scoreboard. Just because as openers are walking out to bat, he's put 200 on the scoreboard because he wants to favor India. Third explanation can be that the why when Indian batsmen are walking out to bat, two openers are coming out to bat, and there are 200 runs on the scoreboard, because this could be a second inning that we are batting, and in the first inning we scored 400 runs. The opposition also batted, they just scored 200 runs. Therefore, in the second inning when we are coming out to bat, we already have 200 on the scoreboard. What it means is, if you consider the second inning as an explanation, then the whole thing will make sense. If we were to consider this to be a lottery, that because he liked 200, he's putting 200 there, and earlier when the previous team came out to bat, he put 0 there. Now, if it is random event, then the world is completely world is not random. World is systematic. We can explain the world, predict the world. What to speak of explanation, we can to a certain degree predict the world. So world is not random at all. So randoming is not a explanation. Favorism is also not an explanation, because then I don't have a chance. somebody who is favorable starts with a 200 on the board, and somebody, if I'm not favorable, I start with a 0. I start I just take birth on the street. That's so unfair. So God has to be all loving and all well-wishing. God cannot be partial like this. Now the third explanation could be the most satisfying explanation, which makes sense, that if it could be, what if it could be a second inning and India batted well in their first inning, scored 400 runs. Now opposition also got a chance. Now they could only score 200 runs. So now when Indian openers are coming out to bat again in the second inning, they already have 200 on the board. Now this is most logical explanation. So why we are miserable also can be explained with this flow, that if I've done horrible things in my past which deserved a certain kind of fruits, with those fruits I have taken birth. Now it's up to me to incur my fresh karma again while I'm alive. Now if I choose to incur similar horrible deeds, actions, I will keep yielding similar horrible fruits again. Then from that perspective, my misery seems to be perpetual, unending. It can degrade only. So so this is how the explanation which most logically explain the misery and the miserable condition of the world. What is our role in this? As a grahastha, as a varnashram, as being in varnashram, our role is to do our duty, and our duty, our dharma, is to feed. If we can somebody feed, if we can feed somebody, we should feed somebody. That's a duty of a grahastha. Grahastha should always keep some extra food in his house, which even if a guest come unannounced, he should be able to get food. Nobody should go hungry from his home. That's duty of a grahastha. Not only sannyasis. Sannyasis need to be worshipped and fed well, of course, but anybody who come to you asking for alms shouldn't go empty-handed. Should go with something. That's a duty of a grahastha, and we can do this to the extent we can. There is no it depends obviously on the time, place, circumstance, which will allow us to do certain things, which may allow us not to do certain things. But giving charity is a duty of a grahastha, because he is neither a brahmachari who is studying, nor a sannyasi who is preaching full time, but who is engaged in mercantile commercial activity, and he has a responsibility to maintain both the ashrama, brahmacharya ashram and sannyas ashram. So that ashram maintenance is responsibility of a grahastha, and hence grahastha should give. They should keep some portion of their income towards giving. And one type of giving is giving, feeding the hungry. But again, obviously, we all have capacities. We can't fill everybody with the food stuff or the prasadam, even if we so desire to. So our time, place, circumstance, and the situation, situational situations, we should act according to the situations. That goes without saying.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Roji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Harish Prabhuji rightly mentioned a lot of things. Just going through the chat, I don't see any other questions. Thank you, everyone, for patiently hearing. We are almost at 2 o'clock. Uh, so thank you so much for giving me opportunity to speak and share my thoughts, and listening to them patiently, participating in discussion enthusiastically. And we, Krishna willing, we will continue this journey on next Sunday. And wish you all a very safe week, happy week, Krishna conscious week ahead. Thank you so much, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Sorry,
Hare
and
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
we would like to just thank you for this
Hare
nectarian
Krishna.
session with one Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Prabhuji. I would request everyone just to unmute and just loudly chant one Hare Krishna Mahamantra for Prabhuji for our devotional progress through him. Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama,
Hare Ram, Ram
Hare
Ram, Hare
Ram,
Hare.
Hare.
Hare
Thank you
Hare.
very much, Prabhuji, for
Dhanyavad
this nectarian
Prabhuji.
session.
Thank you very
Dhanyavad
Hare
much.
Prabhuji.
Dandavat
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhuji, we should be more thankful to you. It's been 2.5 hours. You have been talking and explaining us. We were just lending our ears, but all your senses were in explaining, and also we took extra time for our questions. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Keshav.